I just got cut off when I was reading the Zen part. I've got the War of the Soul. Wow. I've got the War of the Soul. Found the evidence. Hi, Tanya. Couldn't believe what I found. Hi, Tanya. This is what I'm getting attacked. This is what this demonic program is about on Earth. I found these documents by chance. How are you? "7 days." Yeah, there's a reason behind that as well. It's going to happen in England. This is what I'm reading about on the documents. I don't know if you can see. The commands of the Antichrist. Do they contend the time? This led me on to the New Age movement, right? And this led me on to researching today, basically, and the United Nations, right? So it led me on basically the history of all this, not just what we're going through in the world now, but the past. Okay, it's always the history is important. So since the 1700s, right, everything, right. So that led me on to, linking up to this page I'm on, and about the rings of the Antichrist, basically. Okay, and light workers. So I would have thought, what do you reckon? They had to be, just as I stumbled across this information. I can just check these, the video, the stream a minute. Yeah, it all links up with the weather control, food, monetary system, everything links up. And my background in religion and the way I was raised, it all links up to what I stumbled across just now. You connect the dots. Never give up, Tanya. Never, ever. Don't let these demons into your soul, ever. And you beloved animals, your lovely life. And then I had the helicopter flying over. I had the gaslighters all descended, the demonic descended around me. So someone's going behind the scenes a minute. How was it for you over there? How are you coping with 7 days lockdown? No matter how tough it gets, right? I have you, because you'll know your part, no matter how many they do in technology, this targeting subject, this all demonic the picture. Exactly. Did you get any rest yourself? It's Friday morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. For me, well, I'm just thought, well, I've got enough visitors doing what they're doing. Must have to. It took an hour to get out of the supermarket. Yeah. 3 playbacks that someone else watching. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, you can only do what you can stock up. No, too tired, too stressed. This is what they want you to be. They want people to be tired and stressed. Let's go on to this. I'm just going to read it out. On this section about the realms of the celestial. I know about celestial terminology from the religion I was raised into, okay? Alright, the awareness is like the spiritual light workers of Christ, okay? So whatever people's belief systems are. Now, the awareness indicates the Earth is essentially in the grips of war between planets. Have an open mind on this one, Tanya, I tell you. But I'm aware of the planetary comets affecting the Earth. It goes on to say in this article, and has been Earth essentially in the grips of war between the planets, and has been for 12,000 years. In a tense level, prior to that, in a less intense level, approximately 60.000 years. This awareness indicates these entities from those other realms have the capability of transcending. I've seen a movie called Transcending. I know what that means. Transmuting certain it's like a vibrational rates in the electromagnetic spectrum, traveling from place to place in the universe. I knew they had advanced technology. Were they doing what they're doing to target individuals with advanced technology too? I knew they had the ability to travel in this terminology I'm reading. And this article is 1978. We're 2021 now. I'll carry on. I'll read your comments if you're saying anything at the moment. I'm trying to get it now, balancing. Yeah, I know, Tanya. Right, the next part. The awareness indicates this relating unto that which has been deemed. The word is known. Hades and Celestia. Celestia. That those in the vibrational rates known as Celestia is being capable of extending high levels of energy to entities upon this plane for healing purposes. Yet these entities are not allowed to interfere with destiny of entities upon this plane unless requested and unless invited. This awareness indicates that the entities on that vibrational rate, known as Hades, as having invaded upon this plane and having set up camps in the physical levels. And there's a link. I'll go into that in a minute. And as being begun using entities both on the surface and beneath the surface for their purposes of conquering Earth, as well as other planets, and those entities as being among the forces which are attempting to present the controls using the computers and branding of the people for their own slaves. I knew they had underground dumps around the world. I knew there was a trillion papers I read about of the fallen angels subject in the Book of Enoch. And I read some of that, and also I knew a suspicion that the implants in human has been around for a long time. And then the links back to the Egyptian era and the biblical eras. Now I'm going on to this link. Having set up camps in the physical levels. Let's have a read. If it opens. Be a pity if it doesn't open. That'd be fascinating read. Okay. Might block me. Let's have another go. They're blocking me reading it. Oh my gosh. Hello, Jennifer. I know. I knew this all along. Hi, Jennifer. How are you? I knew there was a big agenda to all this. This is all spiritual. These are the documents I found by research. So here's the next part to this. Ready for this? An open mind is important. Is this awareness wishes entities to understand the forces of celestial light, the forces of Hades, Antichrist, the darkness, are not competing with each other over the human soul, but rather have an agreement with each other. And those who are of a higher vibration, this is what we need to do, raise our vibrations, who seek not to be given all that which world gravity, their personal lust and greed and power desires. Those who would serve others and love others are those which by the agreement will be allowed to enter into vibrationary realms known as celestia. Some torture is so hard. I know. Blessings to you. Christian Marie, blessings to you too. Lovely for you to see and to join. It's all about spiritual war. That's what it's all about. Whatever your donation, whatever you believe in, this is what I found, and these are documents. And my background in how I was raised, it all links to this. It's a bigger picture. It's they can't take our souls away, no matter what physical torture and all the practical things. We are of the light. It's got to be in our DNA. You think about it, right? And what I'm reading this past X amount of time, I've been looking at these documents, and they've been hacking me. Suddenly, I stumbled across this, and they cut me off. They're all being exposed. Exactly, Christian Marie. About to get wiped out. Exactly. No one will be left behind. I'm into that. How are you, by the way? I'm going to try and type. I'm balancing this computer. And I'll come to the next part. Thou shalt not touch my anointed. Amen to that, Christine. Amen to that. The agreement between the forces of light and darkness. This is below the next paragraph. Those who are seeking to preserve self at all cost, at the price of concern or love for others. Those who seek security, who are willing to become slaves in order to survive. Those entities who are willing to harm others in order to save themselves. Those are the entities who will be susceptible to the branding. Get the word they're using? This is a 1978 article I'm reading. So you look at the word branding here. The actions of those from the dark forces, and those entities shall dark forces, that vibrational rates. Wow. And look what they're branding in technology, in mainstream media and news articles as branding. What do they mean by that now? Doesn't it seem? Oh my gosh. And this is the purpose of, they word it as, I don't, let me just check you can see this what I'm reading. Even the lower parts will be exposed as well. Yes, I'm checking you can see this. Each movement, right? And yeah, they will. Oh, yes. So this is the purpose of it's pronounced, and at the top of this article, and the word Ahriman, meaning the Antichrist, dark forces. Okay. So that's what I stumbled across. So, and I was just reading through, and I thought, Christ light, the Christos, TOS. Then I was reading down this section, the article reading 78. And as I said, I was looking for how they set up camps at physical levels. I was looking for a link and they're blocking me to read it. So I know what that means. But I'm going to the next part down here, the agreement between the forces of light and darkness. It's a spiritual book. So, right, what other links have we got here? Next page. How alien forces. I mean, what they're going to use of Project Bluebeam, the false assumptions of alien forces. To have an open mind to this. Let's have a look. If it opens, here we go. How alien forces use telepathy to program entities to commit violent crimes. Can you believe this? The awareness indicates the use of alcohol and drugs. Oh my goodness me, I've known this for years. But anyway, this is really an old article before I knew what I know. They start again. The awareness indicates the use of alcohol and drugs, and certain types of primitive music or sounds that appeal to the base chakras. The base instincts, such as heavy punk rock, heavy music type rock music, and those lyrics that express selfish and self-sympathy, lustful concepts associated with power, lust, and greed. These types of musical subjective programming. See all those patterns being already exposed in TV, films, radio, music. Oh my gosh. I'll keep to the script, the article here. These types of musical subjective programming and those films which also promote these types of energy, along with the use of alcohol, drugs, and declining educational standards. Look what's going on now as well. And declining mortality or ethical principles, values in society. And these are contributing greatly to the opening where these telepathic messages can influence younger entities in particular and general population, which allows itself to be vulnerable to these messages. Wow. The awareness indicates that for those entities which have a strong sense of love, mercy, decency, the problem is not so pronounced. This awareness indicates that some of those entities may use alcohol, drugs in a responsible manner, whereby lower forces cannot influence those entities. This awareness indicates, however, most entities are incapable of indulging in drugs and alcohol without some negative programming through and creating havoc in their lives. Wow. I'll read your comments if you are commenting in a minute. This awareness indicates that there are many who are so totally vulnerable in these energies that it takes little to trigger off the behavior, antisocial behavior, whereby entities suffer from the effects of this programming. With these entities expressed, the awareness indicates the dark forces always attempts to work through the weakest link. Do you ever remember a TV program called The Weakest Link? Wow. To attack the forces of light. Within the light force is associated with an entity that is involved in drugs or drinks, or one whose lower chakras are in dominance over the entity's higher chakras. I've known about chakras for years. I've always been in natural remedies and herbs and things. Look at this. Or whereby an entity is mentally, emotionally, psychologically unbalanced. You see, with the programming, with the gaslighting programming, the targeted programming, the ultimate is to create that unbalance. I'll go on. These entities often serve as channels, you see, for dark forces in their efforts to attack the forces of light. Well, well, well. Thou shalt not touch my anointed. I'm into that. Even the lower perps, yep, I hope so. That will happen, Chris. I'm into that. This awareness indicates that in this manner, the dark forces ever attempting to turn over the light, attack the light forces through these deranged or weakened vulnerable servants of forces of the Antichrist. This awareness indicates, I read that, these forces have allowed themselves to become angels. Correction. I'll just reread that part. For they simply have been used by the dark forces. Indicates the entities of correction. I missed the paragraph. Bear with me a minute. The awareness indicates the dark forces always attempt to work with the workers' weakest link. Attack the forces of light. Okay. Within the light forces associated with an entity that's involved in drugs and drinks. I've come to that already. So next paragraph. The awareness indicates that in the manner of the dark forces are attempting to turn off the light that's within your soul, the spirit. Attack the light forces through those damaged or weakened and vulnerable servants of the dark forces. This awareness indicates these entities are not understanding their own role in the battle between the light and darkness, pursuing that they are expressing their own individuality, for they have simply been used for these forces and have allowed themselves to become angels of darkness. The awareness indicates that this relates to the concept of, I'm going to spell this out, WILHELMREICH, in which he describes the murder of Christ within the Christ light emerging through individuals is seen by the dark forces as a threat. So that makes a bit sense, doesn't it? So we're the light forces, light shines within us, spirits, and we're seen as a threat to the darkness. Wow. And therefore, those who are of the good, those who are emigrating the Christ light, often becomes the victims of the dark forces. The awareness indicates that these are always correction. The awareness indicates there are ways whereby these dark forces can hinder in their efforts to victimize the Christ consciousness. Wow. The greatest error of the light worker. The awareness indicates that one thing should be understood is that the light force should never attempt to attack the dark forces directly. That the greatest error of light workers to attack verbally, physically, emotionally, socially, the forces of darkness directly. The way whereby these forces can best be countered is not through attacking them directly, but through spreading the light, so that others may see these dark forces for what they are. The awakening action of making people aware is that which breaks down the power and diffuses the strength of the dark forces. This is why they're attacking the awakened people. This is where they're attacking those spiritually awakened. This is where the attacks on, like, you know, everyday life, what you use, computers, internet. My goodness, it all links together. Wow. Spread the word. Love, light. The forces of darkness are capable of leading light workers to mistrust each other. Have you seen that in the targeted subject with others, like social media, generally? Put a mistrust. Is what they do, like I.e. my son. Exactly, Tanya. We are. There's a positivity here. We are capable. I'll rephrase, start the sentence again. The forces of darkness are capable of leading light workers to mistrust each other, to feel self-righteous, to pursue themselves to be more holy, more correct than others. Do you notice that? Anywhere, anyone? And thus to set one religion against another. Do you see that happening anywhere in the world now? One group against each other, conquer and divide, yeah? One another against each other, each claiming to be the right or the righteous more so than the other. The awareness indicates in this manner the dark forces, Antichrist, can lead each group to feel they are doing battle with the forces of darkness by attacking the other religion, the other group, the other individual. Thus, each in a holy war. What's going on in Far East at the moment? Rumours of wars? For a holy cause of destroying evil, destroying the darkness which emigrates from the other. The awareness indicates the only true way to avoid this type of manipulation by the dark forces is not ever to attack the dark forces directly, but rather spread the light and to spread the word and to pose these dark forces for what they are, expose them. Now, whenever they are found, but how do we make people aware? Let's have a look. The awareness indicates that when you find a small wounded sparrow, which I do this, I've done this before, and attempt to give it a diet or chili con carne, don't laugh, this is what I'm reading, or hamburgers or steak or something, which it cannot digest, that is not in its diet. You'll find it rejecting the diet you offer. Awareness indicates that you cannot expect the sparrow to enjoy the bottom over rocks. It's given a scenario here. The awareness indicates that likewise, an individual whose programming does not allow for ideas and thoughts that are totally out of its comprehension level to enter in or to accept. That individual must be fed the diet of concepts and ideas which it can accept. The awareness indicates that you need not speak to the entity about these things, which are beyond his or her comprehension, which are essentially incapable. But you may speak to the entity in terms and words and names and ideal level, which are within the realm of an individual's comprehension. The awareness indicates you would not expect a child of 3 to enjoy listening to a certain type of quantum theory of reality or music, or would you expect Epstein, is it? The scientist who had attempted such communication? The awareness indicates, however, the child could relate on certain levels, whereby these levels of communication overlap and allow the insight exchange to flow. Now, the awareness indicates that when that so-called scientist, for example, discovers a level understanding of the child, he then would be able to be capable of expressing in terms that the child could understand, assuming that individual had a great awareness of what is occurring in the universe. It is probable this so-called Epstein scientist could find a child, which could also increase the child's awareness so that within the child may not yet fully understand quantum theory, quantum theory reality. The child may know something more than it knew before the encounter. This is just an example written in this article. The awareness indicates that likewise, when you come in contact with an individual whose awareness is limited to a particular stage of development, whereby the entity does not understand telepathy, does not comprehend the terms associated with the Antichrist concepts, whereby the entity knows only in terms of good and bad, nice people and bad people, or in terms of God and the devil, or in terms of them and us. You must find a way whereby you can communicate with this entity in terms which the entity understands. That's just an example. This message is not for the mass mind. The awareness indicates that the message which this awareness gives is not intended for the mass mind. It's intended for those messages reach for those who presumably have a high degree of metaphysical understanding or spiritual attitude or aptitude, or whereby they are open enough to absorb and grow to such levels of understanding. And this awareness indicates that these messages are not likely to be acceptable to the average individuals of this society or any other for a number of years, unless these entities have been spoon-fed with concepts and ideas that allow them to look beyond their own structured programming and realize that these are meanings in life that are not limited or exclusive to their own ideas or belief systems. Awareness agrees that within an entity, for example, believes in good, or believes in God or a devil, or both, or within an entity does not believe in God or a devil, but believes in good partly and bad partly, has a concept and complex within being a benefactor, and a demeanor factor the entity can receive through his own language and belief patterns, though this own understanding messages from this awareness, but those entities who can interpret, translate the language used by this awareness to a language which this entity understands. The awareness indicates that is not referring to the language or culture, such as English, German, and France, but rather the language of the individual in terms of concept of God and the devil. And if so, it is unreasonable to accept to communicate to this entity in terms of awareness of the Antichrist, where the entity can better understand the same terms as God and the devil. Wow, intriguing, intriguing. 4:30. Oh, wow. Wow. Perceiving higher concepts. Okay. This awareness indicates that once a message is translated to the entity, you may then, if the entity requires, as how this message came about, you may then give some information that is not too difficult for the entity to digest in regard to the source. The awareness indicates that this is not important. However, what is important is that the entity consciousness be awakened, so that the entity is able to perceive higher concepts, more universal concepts that answer the many questions which are unanswered in society today. Because of the subjugation of dogma in religions which has been assembled in ancient times, and which do not fully reflect present occurrence of present events. The awareness indicates it is also important that entities in the weak and to think in a language of other religions and social and scientific psychological movements, whereby the communication can then be more easily enhanced because entities' backgrounds, understandings, or concepts can be interrelated in a multilingual type of communication, whereby the concepts held by one religion can be translated into the concepts of another, and the words used intangible accordingly to what is most appropriate and most effective communicating the messages, understanding associated with these concepts. The awareness indicates that it sees no particular value or reason in hindering communication with other religious groups simply in order to perceive concepts of terminology or particular language, such as awareness, such as the Antichrist, or such as expressing certain words, as though they were scared or sacred, and that it had to put into those sacred words in order to be discussed. The awareness indicates, as far as this awareness is concerned, the words used in conveying concepts may best be expressed according to the level of the one who needs to hear the concept. They may be interpreted into another level or preserved in the original form. But the important thing is to allow the entity to understand the message rather than simply to hear the message as it was originally given. Now, this awareness indicates that if such understanding requires a message to be interpreted into concepts and ideas which that an entity can understand, then it should be so expressed. Awareness indicates, however, that in regard to the original concern, that there is an enigma in that this awareness had indicated it is necessary for people to awaken others with these dark forces of darkness, to expose the forces of darkness. Correction, I reread that sentence. That this awareness has indicated it is necessary for people to awaken others, for these dark forces to expose forces of darkness. This awareness indicates it is not essential exposing the dark forces of those exposures should necessarily be put into terms associated with the awareness. With these messages or the concept of the Antichrist as expressed through these readings. The awareness indicates what is essential is that entities look into their own lives and ask themselves, am I dedicated to the light forces by whatever name? Or am I dedicated to the materialism of the dark forces that deny the right of others for those enjoyment of temporary things of the flesh? And if so, dedicated to the light forces, how can I empty this? Or correction, how can I amplify this and spread my devotion to the light forces, as that others may see this path? This is the way, and by following the light, that those others may also accept correction. By following the light, these others also escape from the dark forces. This awareness indicates that within entities concern themselves with promoting the forces of good, the forces of the right living, of that which universally, collectively, healthy for all those entities, are in effect spreading the message that awakens the masses. And when entities lead the energies to dark forces, give payment or give devotion to those dark forces of darkness, they are energizing those, encouraging, in other words, those dark forces that are destructive and detrimental to the masses. The awareness indicates that it is not concerned with the expression of these messages in the terms of words, in terms of the printed message, or in terms of the spoken word used in conveying messages. The awareness rather that you look beyond words of, and at the light, at the insight, and to understand the nature of humanity is a great potential in this manner, whether through art, dance, through work, through social endeavour, through words, through devotion, you spread the message of light, educates and illuminates the darkness of force. Whoever it goes into back to the master file, so let's just show you this. So yeah, the bigger picture, eh? There you go, the bigger picture. Escape from the dark forces. This awareness indicates. See, we do not deal with this is a whole index. Rebellion in heaven and the fall of man. Galactic overview journey oneness and time release capsule. Oh my gosh. I'm taking a break. So if anyone's still about 10 minutes or so, I'll be back because they got the cosmos history of the Illuminati, the nature of the world at present, the secret meaning, the book of Revelation, the mark of the beast, the Antichrist forces, and how world leaders are influenced is what I stumbled across this document just now. How alien forces used telepathically. Dilemmas, yeah, let's have a look. The third and fourth steps in the brain behind it all. The 6 steps, how in-dimensional beings enter in. The eighth step, putting the picture together. The Battle of Armageddon, a reminder, be prepared for this desperate act to come. We're living in the most critical time. Why the Fed and the national debt are illegal? Oh my goodness me. How the New World Order is taking control of the depopulation. The global year 2000 depopulation program. Masons, the driving force behind the New World Order. The sinister use of the national ID card. The forthright being re-established of Skull-and-Bone Society. Oh my gosh, I'll show you the index of the master file, the Cosmos Awareness. This is all evidence of this document. I'm trying to get a year of this document. So I can see if I can make this page bigger for the reader. There you go. Cosmos awareness is a force that expresses itself through ego. Christ, Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, other great authors who serve as channels for cosmos consciousness who speak again today. The world begins to enter the new age of spiritual consciousness awareness. Since 1963, the cosmos awareness has been communicating through carefully trained channels. The information contained within was received from deep trance states and interpreted by an entity called affiliated at the time with Cosmos Awareness Communications. Information for those inherit of the new age. Be careful about that, by the way. The awareness indicates the universal vibrations and the movement of planets, the movement of the sun. It is through its orbit and its orbit around Sirius in the Octagon constellations and the vibrations it meets in its movements, and determines the Earth ages approximately 2200 years each. And it's in its movement into these new vibrations that trigger certain frequency reactions among the planets of the solar system, so that vibrations are altered on Earth and on the other planets in such a manner, and it changes the consciousness of individuals on Earth. If that is causing and bringing another new age. Awareness tells you not to believe anything. Even this awareness not to believe, but to question, explore, doubt, discover yourself. What is the truth? Wow. And there's the documents, the files. The main purpose of the awareness of the time gives you background. It details a hell of a lot what's going on to date. Tanya. So, Mark of the Beast. The cosmos history, I don't need to look at that. The nature of the world at present. I think look at the Book of Revelation, Secret Meanings section. How to interpret this, right? And as I said, this is an old abstract of book. Revelations, awareness. Awareness indicates, instead of reading about the mark of the beast, think it as a microchip. Wow. You can see how the Templars wrote this book in an attempt to expose the plans of the extraterrestrials. Do you believe that? Oh, wow. Such a well research to the masses. It became inserted in the New Testament almost accidentally. There were people who were very much opposed to it being put into the New Testament, but because it had some useful value in helping to control Christians, it was eventually decided to be put in it and use it as a means of cohesion. If you do not follow Christianity properly, you will not be doomed. Really? Christian ministers intimidated. Do not preach end times. The awareness indicates that this time in history, there are many threats to ministers to avoid preaching end times information. They are not to discuss the book of Revelations. They are not to speak of the end times and the dangers of accepting the mark of the beast. Those preachers do so are more or less threatened, either being taken off the air or otherwise harmed. The awareness indicates this does not necessarily mean they will not do so, but it becomes less and less frequent. And you hear preachers speaking of these things, only the daring continue. So let's see what they mean. Most people are too busy living to get involved. The awareness indicates there is seen a kind of manipulation going on in so many levels and so many areas of society. Entities simply want to back off and forget about all of it, not think about it, and just attend to the hardships of daily life. God knows daily life is hard without all this. They say this indicates, the awareness indicates that they are right. It is difficult for them to cope with the everyday problems of life, and there is only one individual capable of working in my family, it says here in the article. In some cases, there is no one capable of working to support the family. This awareness indicates that entities are having greater and greater difficulty surviving, therefore. They have no time to worry about the spiritual pursuits or spiritual threats, of the threats of extinction of their freedoms. They only want to know how to get another meal for the children each day, or go through the same concern, the same problem. How do I feed my kids tonight? How do I scrounge up another meal? Who can I call to visit so that the children can have some cookies or something to eat? This awareness indicates that there's a major problem for many entities, and these entities are open to anything that the government tells them. They do not question. They do not have time to question. They do not have time to interest to pursue any search for truth. The awareness indicates that this is time which entities need to help each other. It is a time in which have-nots are being told. I'll rephrase that. The awareness indicates at this time which entities need to help each other. It is a time in which the haves nots are being told. We are simply stripping you of that little we have been giving you to have less. Does that remind you of Agenda 2030 plus? Unless you learn how to make money yourself, you're not going to get anything more from the government. What is the government? Who's behind that? The welfare programs are being cut off to the poor, being enhanced to corporations. This was done in 1978, this article, the booklet, whatever it is. And now we're 2021. Well, I'll stop there for a moment. I stop for a moment too. It is. Oh my goodness. Okay. The weather's changing. Oh my goodness me, I've never read like that in ages, Tanya. I tell you what, no thank you. I used to do a lot of reading years ago, and I just stumbled across that today. It's getting colder and darker. Over here. But this has always been some of these, the first lot of reading the documents. It is about all of, you know, the spiritual war, and what intrigues me, or to have a break at the moment, it's 5:30, it's up to 8, because they go out their way, powers that be, you know, the demonic side of life, and they link to the dark occult, the Illuminati, Freemasonry. Who do they really serve? And what I've found all along. And if I didn't have the upbringing I had, well, because there's got to be something in our spiritual makeup, you know, in our DNA especially. And I know somebody did a stream, I can't remember who, about there's a whole, because I always wondered why in this particular religious upbringing I had, why they're always doing genealogy, tracing ancestry, and goes back a lot, and the head office, the genealogy part, and there's a lot of these. It's like they're chasing the Christ gene, you know. All those years ago in history, God, you know, Jesus died on the cross. So they're trying to say, imply, it's a, you know, in all these centuries, you know, today, tracing bloodlines of, you know, I can't, I wish I could find the blog I found ages ago, but it just gave a definition. So, of course, I saw another target individual stream a few days back, and he was explaining that this is the demonic side is the fear. It is the vibrational. You know, I mean, that article, half the article I was reading, it states that everyday problems, everyday things always your vibrations low. The anxiety, the stress, the lack of sleep, the sleep deprivation, you know, the targeting. Because all they want on this earth is those that are just going to do the bidding of the dark occult. with demonic occult, surely. This goes back in the comments. Yes, Christina Marie, she's right when she says, war the soul. It's all around us, isn't it? The earth changing. Yeah, Book of Revelation, so. Chasing, but oh, yeah. Age of deception, isn't it? Wow. The world is run by the dark occult. Okay, as I said, taking a break. Put some chill out music on in the background. Well, I don't have to do that at the moment. Silence is golden.
We understand how important people's holidays are, and I've always said that we wanted people to have holidays this summer, though I always stressed it was going to be not the same as any other summer, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, and I've asked people to understand that they have to be a little bit patient this year. But you've got to balance a very strong desire to get
Wow, well, 10.
with the need to.
I'll be back. Well, what did I say? Number 10's got a musical party going on. So, where's the papers? Yeah. Well. Party time, is it? Number 10 now. Good morning. Got that to contend with. Polish people. See if I upload. Since I mentioned earlier, so upload this video. Demonic entity. Thursday, 2nd of August 2021. This is demonic. Why? Because of sharing evidence. Not taking. My goodness me, look at that, Tanya. You're still listening. 20 playbacks. I've hit the chord there, didn't I? Demonic entities. Where's the article? The banging. Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, let's have a this document. This is just by general research. Most people are too busy. The corporate welfare is okay, but private welfare is a sin. Let me go back to original index. New World Order plans 10 world regions. The awareness indicates the conquest of the United States is not necessary to bring in the New World Order for Europe. The United States would need to be conquered. The New World Order were to be set up, but the purpose of conquering the United States simply to get it diffused is an independent country, so it cannot or does not wish to reinsert the implementation of the New World Order. As for Europe, under the New World Order, the Burgers, an organisation that has been created as the Council for Our Relations, and the Trilateral Commission in the United States was created to bring in 3 countries into the New World Order. Now, the Burger Group, which is a member of individuals of the New World Order to help secure Europe and those countries relating to. You must understand the New World Order is generally an outgrowth of the Rothschilds banking and political powers, who set up generally with the help of other organizations, a communist control of Russia, who also set up control of the Nazis in Germany during World War II by helping fund the Nazi movement, along with others such as Henry Ford and some other large financial independent individuals of the world. Now, this awareness indicates that the Nazi movement and communist movement, both being funded from these Rothschilds' wealth and power base, were but experiments, but early efforts to establish some kind of purpose of bringing in the great powers of Europe under control of financial institutions owned and controlled by the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, who are often seen as the competitors with the so Rockefellers and the Rothschilds are separate and are actually quite small in relation to the power and wealth of the Rothschilds, and could be squashed easily by the Rothschilds' powers. Awareness indicates the Rockefellers' forces include the Council of Our Relations and trilateral organizations, and these are helping to promote the New World Order. Now, the Rothschilds are promoting the New World Order under Zionism, and the Burgers, BILDER, BERERS, and certain mafia contracts, and through most of the banking establishments. And therefore, even regardless of what happens to the United States and the various countries of Europe having their own problems relating to the controls being established through the Rothschilds' forces and European economic system. And let's just break down and skip through a lot of this. New World Order plans 10 regions called the 10 Horns of the Beast. Now, the awareness indicates that some will eventually encompass many of Russian, Eastern European countries in Europe, eventually is planned to encompass all of Asia. Now, this awareness indicates that the plan calls for establishment of 10 regions of the world. Now, they are what is being referred to the Book of Revelations of the 10 horns of the beast. Awareness indicates within the United States there will also be the plan, 10 regions, and these are that which is referred to the Book of Revelations as a similar beast, a smaller beast that forces the masses to worship the larger beast. The awareness indicates in the sense that the UN being funded mostly by United States money is being promoted by the Lisa beast. And when the Lisa beast, the United States becomes a new Republican, or the country having 10 regions instead of 50 states, this country will then become more or less an enforcer of UN rules around the globe. US taxpayers will fund the New World Order. It goes into how it's done. European Union section. New World Order will be worse than Hitler. The movement of the Nazis across Europe and Hitler's effort to promote the New World Order by force, by invading country after country, by subjugating the various countries in different ways, should give you some indication of what to expect in the New World Order. Even though it will be much worse in modern times than Hitler's times because of the equipment of technology for mass control or mass genocide is much more advanced than it was in Hitler's time. And this article goes on. This indicates noise campaign, the police cars outside. Yeah. Because of what technology must control. Let's have a look. The awareness indicates that indeed your United Europe could unite with forces, with a focus on freedoms and the preservation of freedoms under some kind of constitution generated these freedoms and the rights of individuals. It could be most beneficial, but if it is simply a joining together of for economic purposes, political controls, be very wary, for it quite likely that these political controls will begin to become imprisonment controls, keeping entities under greater control for the purpose of certain individuals. Rothschilds, the London state, a sovereign state. Awareness indicates the Rothschilds' headquarters are on a certain grounds that independent of the British and England already knew this part already for years, financially, central London. They are essentially sovereign territory areas, so that the Rothschilds cannot be controlled, I knew this already, by English statute law, because they are on land that is sovereign or separate from that of England. That's central London, by the way, which the way the area is known as Washington, D.C., is separate from the states. Therefore, technically, those committing crimes against the states who live in Washington, D.C. cannot be held for treason until they are brought back to their own state and neighbouring states. As long as they are on foreign land, Washington, D.C., they are not under the laws of the U.S. Constitution. Goes into that, this article. Likewise, the Rothschilds are on foreign land in England and cannot be held accountable to English laws. That's where they make their wealth. Because of that, the banking system. The awareness indicates that this is a way in which they create their own empire. Yeah, I thought so. In the middle of London, and carry on their mischief in such ways that allows them to be immune from any prosecution in English statute law, regardless of their fraud or misinterpretation of other crimes. Now, what I want to see is this part. The head of the beast, Rothschilds. In the awareness indicates, as long as these entities understand this as being the horn of the beast, the head of the beast, and can recognize the importance of staying separate from Rothschild influence and creating a union of countries, they can do great things in preservation of freedom of future. But you must realize too that the Rothschild agents are like cockroaches crawling around your home. These cockroaches crawl as over Europe as are everywhere. They are all around the world, and United States, Europe, Asia, Africa, Japan, the Orient. They are constantly maneuvering and working for the Rothschild purposes. When this awareness speaks of Rothschild's purposes, it refers to those cohorts, the other 12 super wealthy families that associate or ride the coattails of the Rothschilds. There are many families, but there are essentially 13 major families. Approximately 300 families, but 13 major families make up the international banking community, which is behind the organisations known as the Burger Group Council of Foreign Relations. Various secret occults as the Masonry and the Tong organisations and the Mafia. And all these various organisations are sub-orders of the international banking families. Now, who are 13 families? The Bloodlines of the Illuminati, dated September 2013. The website, who controls the world events behind the scenes. Years of extensive research this individual's made have gone into the massive documented work, and in the 624 pages disclose mind-boggling facts and never before revealed truths. The top Illuminati dynasties didn't know existed. You'll learn of the secret Chinese Li family, which operates with impunity in USA around the world. You'll find out why President John Kennedy, actress Grace Kelly were killed. Who created the United Nations and who controls the two major US political parties. How the Rothschilds invented to control modern-day Israel. Who secretly funded false religions such as the Jehovah's Witnesses. Allegedly, I'll put for disclaimer. And much more. A literal, encyclopedia of rare, unbelievable information. Discover the amazing role these bloodlines have played and now reading in human history. Family names such as oh my gosh. The Astor bloodline, the Bundy bloodline, the Collins bloodline, the DuPont bloodline, Freeman bloodline, Kennedy, the Li bloodline, the Oises bloodline, Reynolds bloodline, Rockefeller, Rothschilds, the Russell bloodline, the Van Duyn bloodline. Go ahead. Okay. I'm going to jump ahead. Oh, you're joking me. No way. The top 13 families of the Mormon leadership. Dated 2003. One of the things that the Illuminati has done is install empathy in people toward resisting their wickedness. A letter by an ex-Mormon says, "It's better than I could. There are many reasons why these people, Mormons, do not come forth, and even though they know of the corruption in the Mormon Church, really, one is due to their belief in the Mormon scripture which they associate with the Mormon Church. The leadership had subpowered power, authority over the scripture. Thus, the members of the Mormon Church think that God expects them to support their misguided leaders. This is much the rationalization that many Americans make about their government. They all know the corruption, but realize that it's unpatriotic to talk against the government. And that processes of common man's reaction is the same to both Mormon American leadership. Because, as we discussed, top leadership in both the reader will learn are related to each other, both under the control of the top 13 Illuminati families. The Mormon president at the time of this article, E.Z.R.A. Benston, considered the prophet by the Mormons, was a fan of the John Birch Society. most people would not have read these authors' exposures on both of the Mormon Church and never heard of them. John Birch Society will not be able to protect themselves from the Illuminati. I don't expose those organisations with a great deal of proof. I say this because I know them to many sources and to many angles, that both organisations were installed have been run by the Illuminati. Oh my gosh. The Mormon Church has long prophesied, I think the word is, that they would defend the US Constitution to the last days. They are moving to fulfill that with men like Bo, I can't pronounce this word. Sparkles has talks with buzzwords on Mormon prophecy. The John Birch Society was part of the process of the dialects of the Cold War. They pretended to be the defenders of the people against the New World Order, but they're a fake opposition. I have met quite a few John Birchers. Let me just quick nose who they are. There's a link. Now there's a party going above my head right now, so. So it was an American political group that described itself supporting anti-communism and eliminated government. When did it start up? It's a founder, a businessman founder, Robert W. Welch, in 1899 to 1985 developed it and infrastructure of nationwide chapters. After an early increase in membership and influence, the critics of JBS, such as conservative William F. Berkeley and the National Review, published for organisation. Let's have a look. USA. Foundation was JB Society, 1958. Founded at Indiana. Let's have a look. Wikipedia article. Origins. The John Birch Society established in Indiana, a 2-day session December 1958 by a group of 12 led by Robert Welch Jr., a retired candy manufacturer and a conservative political analyst from Massachusetts in America, and authored his first book about John Birch titled The Life of John Birch, and promote less so John Birch. Picture of them in the USA Army. That's a picture of him. Military intelligence agent in China during the World War II and a former Baptist minister and missionary, and was killed in confrontation with the Chinese Communist soldiers. So it goes into the history. Okay, let's get out of that page. Right. Okay, so what's his connection with the Mormons? The Mormon Church is right. Okay, read that part. In another book by this author, this website says, gave the genealogy evidence showed that the Mormon leadership connected to the 13 top Illuminati family, look at this, the holy bloodline of what purports to be Jesus' lineage. Really? I've also shown numerous other connections between the Mormon leaders and the elite Illuminati bloodlines. Like, it gives an example here, it was genealogy, I thought so, helps tie together some of the various parts of the Illuminati piece. Now, the TATF is a name because Benson is a descendant of, and it's another, along with one of the Russell family, one of the top 13 families. William Russell started the Order of Skull and Bones. Did he? Remember that George Bush was a Skull and Bone man? Is also a descendant of one of the 13 top Illuminati families, and that ties in with the British royalty. And let's have a look at this. Wikipedia. Born 1884. Was American diplomat, Secretary of War. Let's have a look. He's also founder of the political dynasty. A father, the President and Chief Justice of William helped Tate. The Secretary of War, Tate reformed the War Department. At Indian forts to choose who would start and run post trade ships while serving as Attorney General. He held that African Americans must be denied the right to vote through intimidation and violence. Oh my. Early life. He was born in America, the child of a powerful family, Tate family. He's a descendant from a Robert Tate who had migrated to America from Ireland. His mother, Sylvia, was of Scottish and Irish descent, while the Tate family were of substance and education. They were not considered wealthy. Tate attended local schools. He then taught school to earn money to attend Amherst Academy. During his time, he and someone else belonging to, where did they make their income? So Tate entered Yale College in 1829 and graduated and created the secret society known. Why did he create it? Secret Society of Skull and Bones with William Hutton Russell. Right, that's his connection then. 1832. Let's see the history of the family. So in 1675, this relates to connection to England. Robert Taft was first known to be in Massachusetts and in Braintree. Let's have a look. Yes, I believe it is England. No, it isn't actually. It's the United States. Correction. They lived in Braintree in 1675 before moving to another part of America. Okay, so there's a complex New England of a war, Philip's War. Okay, so I want to see what the Tate family, who are they, has historic origins, and its members have served government for Island, Utah, Vermont, Rhode Island, Utah, in various positions such as U.S. Representative, Governor. What they've got? What's their roots? Just in the background. Descendants is what I'm looking at. Largely a political active family. Idaho, prominently known in. Okay, so a descendant, Robert Tate Sr., William Howard Tate became the President of the United States and Chief Justice United States Supreme Court. Robert Tate, Sr., a grandson of Jos Tate, died prematurely. Linda Tate became the first woman voter in 1756. Another descendant of Tate was Asa Tate Princeton, was an American farmer, government official, and religious leader who served as the 15th United States Secretary for Agriculture during both presidential terms, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and as the 13th president. Oh my goodness. Political connections for the Mormons then. Let me just have a look. if it comes up. As the 13th President of the United Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from 1985. You joking me? Go back out of here back to where I was. So the Titan has his name because descendant of him. United States Minister for Russia. (1882). Okay. Who are the Russell family then? The Watchtower and the Illuminati. Let's have a quick nose. The Watchtower and the Masons have a good response, right? So I'm not going to read it all. Just want a quick look through any connections. Witchcraft, bloody heck. You got a mix of Jewish blood, demonic bloodlines, Irish bloodline. Sharon Russell left the Illuminati and Stillwood A.W. worked with police showing ritual sites. Shoot. Prince Proud Stewart lived in Delaware with the travel industry. A secret Santa serial. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This researcher, I'll go back where I was, because you can get lost in this. Why would the Russell family create Skull and Bones? Remember that George Bush was a member. The Pilgrim Society, the Watchtower Bible and Tax Society, the Masonic Daughters goes deep in history. 1800s, a Mason from Scotland set up still. The Scotland had played a key role in the Illuminati. And one example, thousands, is Miller Anetics. Let's have a quick look. Who is a member of the wealthy Mormon? Oh my gosh, Illuminati Eccles family, which came over from Scotland. The Russells played a key role in the cocaine trade, opium trade in the early 1800s, and early Mormonism. One of Russell's business partners were Warren Delano Jr., chief of Russell and Company operations in Canton, China, and was a grandfather of what? And was a grandfather of Franklin Roosevelt. The Russell Company logo was skull and bones. The Tate family, which is also related to George Bush by blood, and the Harriman family are two families that have been intimately connected. Intimately connected to the Skull and Bones Order, which is an early entry point into the Illuminati and into the superface, just as an exclusive fraternity. Note: Source: This was written by Bo Gritz, Gritz, and a Mormon church had gone separate ways. Bo Gritz, under direction of his CIA handler, has been moving around talking to patriots and establishing a community called Almost Heaven. And this is the IDFRIS newsletters have had several articles about that guy, including one entitled Spike, which is what Bo calls from the training he has given people. Cut through a lot of this, and then we're going to go read his articles. So I can't see prominent connections unless I read everything with the Mormonism and 13 bloodline families. It is there. It's the darkness of it really is about the darkness and the light. Again, because you've got links here. Rose Scholar, Wife Henry, is known participant in Satanism and witchcraft. Illuminati again. You got all these ties, all these individuals. I mean, this just goes on. What is the spiritual significance of Clinton's subject? Got part 2. Here we go. So I wanted to look at the close descriptions of sealing rituals. Okay. This part explains the sealing rituals. I'm doing this so that Christians can understand the keeper of seals is, and also so that Christians can understand Mormonism is closer to Satanism than it is to Christianity. The article hopefully provides a written record They cut me off just then. They cut me off just then. Right, part 2. This article will hopefully provide a rich and proof record that Christians have an objective way to determine if someone is an ex-Satanist and if they really are. I realise that some Christians don't like to learn about their enemy, and that this is fine if they do not want to read this or hear this. Well, I'm just sharing the article on the stream. On the other hand, I see people who are coming out of Satanism who the Christians are disbelieving. The Christians have to reinforce the have no reference on which to determine whether someone is illuminated or not. And although I believe the Spirit of God is an excellent reliever of man, revealer, I have to be frank. Even the best of Christians sometimes don't hear what the Spirit has to say and could believe from a written explanation. Now, the closest descriptions of sealing rituals that I have found that matches the description of Satanist hierarchy are rituals from people who have come out of the Satanist hierarchy are the Mormon sealing rituals. For anyone wanting to do a study about how Mormonism is witchcraft, I suggest they read the scholarly book written by Mormon scholar Early Mormonism, The Magic World View by Michael Quinton. Quinton conclusively shows that early Mormonism was based on magic and witchcraft. Quinton is a Mormon in good standing, ties to point out in the book, and these things can't be held against Mormonism because most everyone back in the early 1800s practiced magic and witchcraft. Wow. Whether most people did or not seems to be irrelevant as to whether it's okay. Another great book showing the connections between Mormonism, temple ceremonies, witchcraft rituals, Masonic rituals is Bill Sucumberlium book on Mormonism Temple of Doom. Bill does an excellent job of showing, illustrating how Mormon temple ceremony, Masonic, and witchcraft rituals are simply the same thing, with mirror variations. One most important thing in Satanism is sealing. Everything is sealed. Oh my gosh. I was raised in Mormonism. One doesn't hear the term sealing used a lot. I've read many books on an enemy to know how he thinks. It is rare to have someone mention sealing. I've learnt a lot about it from ex-Satanists. If one leaves off studying Satanism and begins studying many occults and religions, one begins hearing about sealing again when one gets to Mormonism. From ex-Satan, Mormon men and women are sealed for each other in the Mormon temple marriages. Yeah, did I know that? The early Mormons were sealed to many spouses. Oh, yeah, I knew that too. The Mormon seal is very similar to what is done in witchcraft. Oh my gosh, called hand fasting, and is also similar to marriage sealing in Satanism. Joseph Smith, whose family practiced witchcraft, and I never knew that. Never knew that. And had many types of seals around their house, which were used in magic, according to Magic Book 1830. And then it states which one it was and where. This section. The stones to be anointed with oil and sealed with a holy oh my goodness. They use oil and claim to do prayers on people's heads. In 1837, Mormon leaders performed such magical sealings for James Colin Burster, Mormonism and the Magic World View. Joseph Smith had a cane with a serpent on top of it, and the seals below. The minute staff or canes are important in Satanism. The seal of the Mars was carved on Smith's family Ithlium, can't pronounce that word, which was used by the family to draw circles for magic incarnations. Mormonism and the Magic Word View Book Well. How the Illuminati Freemasonry, and I left all those years ago. It's always been about a spiritual war. You don't go along with their demonic plans. You are singled out. And all my family members stick together. Okay. I'm being hacked into account. Oh my gosh. It's now. What's the time? Okay. No wonder. It all makes sense. A lot of stuff, recent stuff, past years as well around here. It all makes sense. All this technology being used, it all makes sense. The NK Ultra program. The setups. Oh my, the list is endless. At the moment, after just is this really? In 1987, Mormon leaders performed such a magical sealing for James Conner. I witnessed a lot of things in these temples. I was a young teenager and I did baptisms of the dead. Rituals. I was a part of this. Didn't know it though. Didn't know what it's really about. The seal of Mars was carved on the Smith family, whatever item that was used by the family. Oh gosh, it turns my stomach. Almost everything done in the Sanctus involves sealing. So when my mum went to the temples to do sealings and all this, wearing magic underwear. I've seen these videos all these years ago. A guy who worked as a sealer in the temples and about the rituals, and he got the videos. He described it all. And Tanya, forgotten what she's called. She did loads of books. She had websites in the late 90s, 80s, and I started investigating, started asking questions, and my goodness me, did I find out a hell of a lot. And my mother felt she didn't have any choice because her upbringing wasn't ideal. So, of course, I didn't know no different until I mixed with my neighbour, her daughter, and just having an ordinary life away from the constraints of this organised religious upbringing. Oh my goodness. But all these years, my nephews and nieces married and stuff like that. It all made sense when I saw loads of stuff happening in 2018 at my late mum's funeral. Well, Sadly, though, a lot of my DNA family members are still part of it all. My older brother was the one behind a lot of stuff, and my ex-army brother, he never was. He got out of the religion himself, but he was tied to the British military. So he and my older brother, both together, put me in this program, target program. Yeah. So that they worked on my two kids when they were little. I mean, everything since. It was just a part of this bigger picture, isn't it? So it's all about survival, spiritually, practically as well. And here we are, 2021 plus now. So yeah, it all makes sense. The Illuminati, the Rothschilds, everything just talks about the Denver International Airport. And yeah, H.G. Wells, The New World Order book. I mean, I've got this already. And now, what's the connection with this trust? Alice A. Bailey, mother of the New Age for the New World Order. False light of the world. Luciferian Trust Organization, New World Order Chart Organization. The Windsor International Bank and Trust Company. What? No way. Oh, you can't make this up. Geneva, West Indies. Windsor International Bank and Trust. I know about bloody trust law. Look who's got a bloody banking connection. The Rockefeller Foundation. Advancement of Science. These corporations. World Wildlife Foundation. Habit for Humanity. HUE. Coca-Cola Foundation. A lot of these well-known corporations have got their banking in the West Indies islands. Windsor International Banking and Trust Limited set up as trust. Put the assets New York City, Barbados. Oh my goodness, it's like a can of worms. Another bloodline link. Alice Ann Bailey, 1800s, was born into this particular family, Batman family. Wikipedia. Was a writer. Trying to find out about the family. Covering issues on spirituality, solar system, meditation, healing, psychological, spiritual. Okay, let's go down a bit. Lucas Trust. What's that connection? Who? So she founded it in 1922, and a magazine. And instructions of meditation and ideas in a book. Seven Rays of Energy writings. Okay, so that one. Anyway, let's go out of that. Just check, see what's going on. And I'll show in the stream for now. Because if anyone could research this information themselves, because I've been here long enough, I'm going to turn the main internet off. For at least an hour. Been here a long time, I think, looking at these documents. I'll check them the hours. Yeah. 2 hours, 3 minutes says, but could be longer. Let's just check to see sound checking. Okay. Right, that's it. So basically, we're dealing with the demonic soul. We're dealing with the demonic side. As I started off, this observations in the documents, and this is not me. This is this is in the these are basically research in the bloodlines. On this website, and it goes back, as I always said at the beginning of the stream, the history. So this advanced technology now, what they're using for this targeted program on individuals, but I'd always had a gut feeling there that it was a DNA genealogy connection, and in biblical times to date, I've always had that indication. And what I'm reading up on now is documents in history and what's going on in the world today in the health subject. Is this been all, it's in black and white. these documents. So I was surprised. I just went and did some research on these documents, and I just come across a lot more information. The Georgia Guidestones, for example, a link to a documentary, and I found all this. Do they contain the Ten Commandments or the Antichrist? You know, be careful when you could be there for ages looking through. So I would suggest to just be careful. And then when you're looking at subjects like these, I'll go back out of this page. All this huge master file, the Lightwork Network site. I don't know if you can still find this. Oh wow, yes. For universal peace, freedom, and justice. Website. Be careful this butterfly, because you always sometimes the networks can be overtaken. And the symbolism on these websites. So before the creator, just do some research for the creator. You are the living light. Remember your origin. Recognize your destiny. Reclaim your bright light. So just observations. This is, as I said, the you got 2003 recovered through Wayback Machine website, if it's still around, archived, I think. Yeah. So I'll go back over that. So a lot of these links I found. So these are the bloodlines, the contents of this. It's pure chance I found these. The original founder, the fortune, was John Jacob Astor, 1700s, you see, and was born in Germany, a Jewish bloodline. The Jewish origins from had been hidden. There are quite a number of various ideas of the Astor heritage has been put into circulation. It goes into the history. In 1700s, he went to America after a stop over in London, and the story that he became an American penniless and that he made true. He soon joined the Masonic Lodge. Within 2-3 years, become a master of the Holland Lodge in New York City. So there's a bio and the timelines and details of just one of the bloodline families. And this just goes into bio. You can read up, anyone can have a look, I suppose. So it's alleged in the article he made shady and crooked real estate deals in New York City, and the next break came when two men who were known to have been in the Illuminati gave John a special government privilege, and the two men were President Jefferson's secretaries, and it goes into who are Illuminati members. United States government placed a number on a US ships on sailing with goods in 1800s, and it goes with permission for those two men for his ship to sail with its cargo. His ship sailed and made close to 200.000 profit in that day's money. So basically, Astra strangely profited greatly upon the war of the 1812, which crippled almost all other American shippers' maritime business. And also, he worked together with George Clinton and another member of the Illuminati on land deals. And even at that period in history, the British intelligence, it's claimed, worked for the Committee of the 300 and the top 13 families. And it's interesting then that John Coleman, who had access to intelligence agents' secret documents, discovered the origin of John Jacob Astor, was also a British secret agent. So the alleged 13 families have intimate roles with American and British intelligence cults. Prior to 1800s, John entered into the fur trade and remained the biggest player in the fur trade. He got out of it in the 1834. Over the years, he had managed to build up a monopoly. How he managed to push everyone else out is a good question. So anyway, that's just one family, and there's a whole list on this website. The Brandy. What kind of family are aligned with 13 bloodlines and capture the occult power of powerful occult bloodlines around the world? And they have intermarried with American Indians to gain spiritual power resident within the leading spiritual African Indians, and various Indian reservations are used for Illuminati rituals. They have been doing this type of thing for thousands of years. My gosh. Powerful families around the world participate on different levels with the Illuminati. Some participate on a business level, and some various crime mafia type families around the world mafia families might not subscribe to the occult philosophy, but they do recognize power and business. Some powerful families around the world participate simply on the level that Wow. Amazing what you find. I'm going to end this stream anyway. The research in this stream is available to read independently. This is the history, as I said, everything goes back in history to where we are to date in the world. And the connections. I'm going to stream, as I said, 13 bloodline families. And I said this website is archived. There's videos out there. These 13 families run the shadow forces behind NWA. And as I said, if you got time to read, but I'm sure there must be Disney Bloodlines and McDonald Bloodlines. Mind Control, I think there's a video, 13 Illuminati Bloodlines. Don't think there's a video available. You might know, I don't think so. So there's a lot going on with all this and the weather and the skies, and I'm just going to say for now just that this is the master file where I found a lot of these documents. My lord, you look at how alien forces use how the Jesus myth was created. I mean, this is education purposes only. I'm not going to read this out. I'm just going to have a quick look. What I'm reading is I'm not going to read out because this is works that people. What's the Council of Nicaea? To create a single religion for Rome. Okay, so they want to merge all claimed religions. New religious order, one world religion as well. Whether this would be a combination of being known as the Antichrist or the new Messiah for others is still to be determined. But as much like an action of trying to bring all religions together, the awareness indicates what occurred in Rome was a political effort by Constantine to gather the energies of conflicting religious groups and bring together to stop the fighting between these groups. And that was tearing Rome apart. The action of Constantine was that he informed those religious leaders of the various sects in Rome, and that if they did not come together and join in a kind of compromise religion, the religion would not be recognised or legal in Rome. Thus, most of those came and put their best efforts into giving their particular religious dogma of values and their deity into the compromise that was formed. And that became the Holy Catholic religion, Catholic meaning universal. Awareness indicates that this inaction, those entities, were not totally satisfied. No one was completely satisfied. But because each had contributed part of their religion could feel secure, their religion would be preserved. Blurred in the Christian religion, the name Jesus was chosen as the name of the hero or counterpiece of the religion because it meant I would be very careful about anything you read like this and do your own independent research because this goes back a lot. You can't just read an article or a link of a website and just believe that. You really need to do your independent thought and research on this. There's many gods and art things worshipped all those centuries ago. So if anyone doesn't know the word definition of word Jesus, Jesus, pronunciation, spell I'm reading it, and the word HESUS, pronounced Heus, HEYSOOS in brackets. It was a Hebrew term that meant neither he or she. It was neutral. The further name of Christ was originally Christos, Christos, meant the clear one or enlightened one. Or Jesus, enlightened one, the Christed entity had been traditionally recognized long before this time. The Greek had a character named Christus, meant the height of the top, and there was various other types of Christ. There were many Christs prior to Jesus. There was Black Christ, Christed one, in certain cultures, and their version of the Christed one in India was known as Christiana. Krishna. The awareness indicates that the Indian version but the excuse me but the historical aspects have been distorted so that when people seek or bust out that, that's what I mean, you just need to be careful what you read and what you're researching, because there's so many misinformation, disinformation. Be careful. Even if it were you see there's a lot of information on this article, which I'm not going to read out all of it. So you see, in that period of time, you had sun worshippers, sun gods, and things like that, sundials. Think of the history of movies and things, sundials. When you look at the history of Egyptian, history, I mean, scholars out there experience and studies a lot of these things. And then you've got subjects like biblical miracles and stories come from earlier sources. I mean, this article, the awareness indicates the story of the water and the whale wishing in the wash of the feet and things like that. I'm not going to go into that because I'm not going to, in the Christian terminology here, and the culture writings from other areas of the world also included in the Christian history part of the total. Then there's subjects, how did Jesus survive the crucifixion? Yeah. So spiritual essence, the spiritualness. Mm. Yeah, I wouldn't touch certain subjects like these because it's taboo area, you know, subject, I suppose. And don't like people questioning things or researching things. What was Christianity before, guys? You got books out there. I'll go back where it was. Anyway, this particular one, lastly, how alien forces use telepathy to program entities to commit violent crimes. So, you know, went through that early in the stream. So the forces of light, forces of darkness. And the light worker goes into that. Go back to. You also got Rebellion Heaven and the Fallen Man. Observations. Whereby Lucifer took a portion of the angels from heaven and set out in rebellion against the laws of the divine. Awareness indicates that this action refers to as the fall of man or the falling of angels, and whereby this action, the concept of darkness, was created, and results of evil as a position in consciousness for entities to wrestle with. Awareness indicates that in more sublime sense, the action represents the right of each part to experience its own individuality through its own potential growth and development. And it could be without being dependent on the will of a divine creator who has every move. Awareness indicates this action symbolically is so different from the child being born, and the national thinking part of the mind being in the right to develop, to think, and to grow and mature itself and into a national being individual. So you can, from the dictates of its father and mother, and you might want to look into this. Awareness indicates fallen angels, Lucifer and his followers moving out into the universe of mind or consciousness and seeking to create structures and order out of unfinished creation. An unfinished realm, unfinished because it did not fit into the expectations of those who were experiencing it. This Luciferian hierarchy of energies in this unfinished realm is as that which is the left side of the cosmos mind, whereas on the intuitive side, cosmic mind is that which holds the creative forces. Awareness indicates in that intuitive side, the right side, the cosmos mind is at the force which is holistic in nature. It goes into details about that. Awareness indicates the left side also, Luciferian realm, the left side of the cosmos mind, which holds the forces of rational thinking, which moves from line to line into conclusions, neither quite reaching in total understanding of anything. You really might want to have a read of this oneself. Psychologically, techniques developed over a period of time, associating breaking down the structure, creations, and the towers of information built upon logic, built upon structure, civilizations of concepts and ideas. Zen masters in breaking down the rational left side efforts to reach the ultimate tower to heaven. We're doing so in order to allow the right side, creative side, to have historic experiences. I really believe that. I'm not going to go into that. What I started off with is depopulation is very important. US under martial law. And the Masons driving force behind the New World Order to keep to the basics. The history is history, what's happening now, and the spirituality of all this. And why do they need the DID, especially? And they did that years ago, didn't they? So, but now it's digitized, potentially. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Education purposes, information only, and but this back to the master file. Spirituality, prayer versus meditation is up to the reader. But the first part I found was more the connection with the demonic occult. Third and fourth steps, brain behind all. You see, religious influences, capitalism, bloodline families in history. Beings entered into. You see, recognizing the conflict between light and dark forces is universal. So the planets in our universe have life on them, you know. That's what it states, you know, which is other than your physical plane, occurring not only in regard to your planet, but throughout the universe, cosmos. This indicates that the planets in your universe which have life on them, most of these planets had a high civilization, a higher order of life belonging to that which is galactic federation, you can see. And these entities are aware of the developing process of Earth and conflict between the forces of darkness and light associated with conflict on the planet. And these forces recognize that this is planet in trauma. This is off this website. The awareness indicates they see this planet as being in the grip of great war between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. This planet has certain valuable positions in the solar system and the ancient treasures deep within its core. These treasures, as that which give great power to those forces which control the planet, and this position and awareness indicates the galactic confederation is also in a continual conflict with the forces of the dark, sometimes known as the NAAS, of the forces of Satan. Saturn, Satan, the forces of darkness, and those from the legions of HADS, which is in conflict with the Galactic Federation, do not openly attack with such vigor those planets which are already established as planets of light, but rather go after those planets which are in development stage, which hold great wealth, and even on the lower levels of planet, and these are more highly developed nations find themselves in conflict over wealth of a similar developing nation. In-depth report refers to the Revelations of Awareness newsletter, and it states which one. Awareness indicates that this has been said, as it is above, as it is below, as it is below, as it is below, above. And the awareness indicates that some degree is true, although which each reflection above or below the emerges of altered slightly, so that echo or reflection is not exact, it's altered according to circumstances. Awareness indicates that essentially, however, conflicts in the inner space are not too unlike those conflicts on the physical plane. And those forces in the inner realms are invertively attempting to influence those telepathically or through activities to influence entities of the physical plane, or which in outer plane, and the influence either emanating from forces of light or forces of darkness. Those influences moving through individuals, through corporate bodies, through groups, through structures, through organizations, through laws of the planets or laws of the realms. The identity of beings which inhabit or control the various dimensions, especially spiritually hierarchy, as that which is a kind of reflection in the higher vibrations of light emerges. These may be termed lords or saints or other names, or reflections of more negative vibrations, may be deemed priests of darkness, demons. However, other name is chosen as appropriate. As demons come in the hallway right now, in the sense of form of men. However, other names have said that the awareness indicates the entities attempting to understand what is occurring need also to recognize that it's possible for entities to move interdimensionally, although it is more difficult than for entities to move horizontally or vertically in their own dimensions. The awareness indicates that when one falls asleep or one moves interdimensionally into another plane, generally into the astral plane, one also moves into a mental plane, particularly during times of meditation, and one may move into electric, I have to spell that out, ETHERIC plane during times such as that of meditation. An indication likewise is possible for entities of the astral, mental, and other planes to gather together and plasma or gaseous substance, which allows them to, for what appears to be a material body or physical de-senses, so that may materialize or move around in physical shape and form an influence in the physical realm directly rather than only so I'll repeat that. Awareness indicates that likewise it is possible. Really? 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 Don't tell me this. I'll repeat the sentence. The awareness indicates that likewise it is possible for entities of the astral, ASTRAL, mental or ETHERIC planes to gather together, that plasma or gas, I spell the word GASEOUS, substance, which allows them to, for what appears to be a material body or physical denseness, so that they may materialize and move around in a physical shape. Again, it's up to the reader to make their own mind up on that. The viewer. My moderator, a certain individual has got links on his playlist. I would suggest, on that point of view, to go and check out Mo Smith. Mo, MOSMITH, I believe Smith is spelled, and check out his playlist on the entities in bodies of men and women and that subject. I don't cover that subject myself. Others do. Others have got evidence of certain things. I have witnessed certain things, i.e. in the visual context of research of this information on his channel and other links. And that's what I'm going to say personally on that subject. And then it says influences in the physical realm directly, not just telepathically. Awareness indicates that within the use of more recent technologies, these entities are finding it more and more easy to move in and out of the physical. I knew it. I knew the technology was so more advanced, and time travel as well, abilities and the technology. You don't have movies, sci-fi type programs of certain subjects like that. The scripts as well. You don't come up with imagination just like that with that kind of script line in the industry. So it might be worth investigating if you're into all that. I personally stick to the spiritual side. And then again, just be careful with Project Bluebeam and false things happening within that time and era. So as I said, these entities can find its way more easily through physical dimensions and other, I'm sure, staying in a physical form for longer periods of time. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter. I think it's a good point. The spiritual hierarchy, interdimensional movement, that awareness indicates that new influences are interdimensional beings interacting with the physical beings. Oh, come on. Of this plane, that entities can come to grip with the essence of the meaning behind religion teachings of the ancients. Awareness indicates that an understanding this relationship with interdimensional being elite entities may also gain greater understanding of the mysteries of present events and occurring in the world in which we live. Putting the total picture together, that would make bloody sense, wouldn't it? Awareness indicates that once entities see the total picture, the pieces begin to fall into place at an alarming rate. So whereby news reports of information were previously have been trivial or fragmented in terms of meaning to the whole suddenly fit in a larger picture and filling the gap so pictures become more clear. Awareness indicates this is like in unto putting together a puzzle or a jigsaw puzzle, not knowing what picture should reveal and when the puzzle is put together. So as long as you know what the picture should reveal, it's more difficult to look for it and define the parts in order to assemble these parts. But when you see the picture of the assembled puzzle, it becomes much easier to know and where the blue goes and where the red green goes is where the tree goes. This is giving you an example, and where the flowers are and where to put the barn. But this awareness indicates that for entities to understand what is occurring in areas such as Costa Rica, Mexico, and elsewhere, Central America countries, elites must understand the entire picture. For to understand only that which is occurring in a little village, or which a military advisors report, or which is given in relation to propaganda by one side or another, this reveals only a fragment of information. Through that fragment may be the entire world to be an individual or regarding the individual. It does not answer the questions of those that sit in their comfortable chairs with their friends and debate these issues behind the death, enslavement, slaughter, agonies of individuals of some form or far-off country, in which the leaders of that country are tired in its efforts with the rid of the country and certain elements and time associated with security problems of a larger nation. So that larger nations must consider sending greater weaponry and forces to deal with the security problem in that country, which in turn requires that other conflicting superpower enhance its prestige also in that area by adding more of its support for those who would overthrow those forces, and that are betraying and causing the agony of its friends, so that each continues to build upon the agony of the other, and as it exercise continues a conflict, so that resources of that country can be acquired and people illuminated. Either in entirety or it's in its terms of a sense of effectiveness in defending their own soul and rights. You see, there's no need for none of this conflict in the world. None of it. It's all greed. Understanding what is occurring on this plane indicates that understanding what is occurring in these areas to have one's consciousness ripped, and the small confines of prejudice, ideas, favourite slogans and samples and beliefs, unbounded loyalties. Seeing beyond the words and beliefs and loyalties, this is what I've always thought. Occurring on the plane requires that entities leave their own self and exit from the identifications of one's beliefs and loyalties, and looks at really from a view, from a level that sees beyond the words, sees beyond the ideas, and sees beyond concepts and energies that are playing, disturbing the levels of individuals. Awareness indicates that whether an entity or energy in this universe is the only energy one is associated to friends, that sees and recognizes an event in a particular way, whether that energy looks at the event as some of its friends. This is a little significance in terms of the cosmos drama. The awareness indicates that it is easier to keep your friends than it is to oppose your friends in a particular issue. It will make the difference in terms of total outcome. Awareness indicates if, however, you are not convinced of pleasing your friends or keeping your friends, and more concerned with discovering for yourself what is true, you may simply put more energy into being open, receptive to learning more and more of these things, and sharing and expressing your feelings without too much regard for what others agree or not. I don't give a monkey's either what people think about me too. And you may share your feelings and ideas and questions then to consider rather than as opinions for them to deal with. What is really about and who in fact you really are. You're spiritual. You see, there are many ways in which you can communicate, and keeping your friends, still inspiring deeper thoughts among friends, as if you have them, and family as well, and their own ideas look beyond. They assume answers, look into new levels, and searching for greater truths. The awareness indicates that all this searching and the highest and hither, looking into and here and looking there, and searching for the answer, finding an answer, giving an answer to someone who refuses that answer. Searching for a still gathered answer that will be accepted by you, looking for truths here and there, sharing your new founded truths. All this effort is in essence to effort to discover who in fact you really are. Who in fact you really are. All the effort to share your discoveries is in fact an effort to discover from others who in fact you really are. As you present your ideas to others, you seek feedback or agreement when the feedback is favourable. You feel secure. You have reached some achievement in discovering something regard to the truth. Awareness indicates that as entity seeks to discover who in fact they really are, they their entirety processes and internally growth involves spirituality. You cannot ask the question who I am really without developing spirituality. This awareness indicates it is only when you answer that question with a presumption that you know who you are. It is only then that you yourself for your spiritual development. This is awareness indicates that the answer in words is simple. Who are you really? You are the reflection of this awareness. You are the reflection of God. You are the microcosmic reflection of the microcosmos. This awareness indicates that in understanding this answer, you may think you have the answer to the riddle. The awareness indicates that is far from the truth, for answer lies not in the words. The answer lies in realization who you are. And this is that which must be lived each moment for eternity in order to have the answer with your eternity. Awareness indicates that when an entity forgets who, in fact, or he or she really is for a moment, or entity is lost and separated in his or her illusion, id, from the divine, and when the entity realizes who, in fact, he or she really is, at that moment, the entity is one with God. This awareness indicates the use of words as answers are but dead leaves, and the truth is that much must be ever living and ever experienced and ever realized. The awareness indicates it will do one and one only. That it will do no one no favour. It will do you no good to assume that you have the answer and that you are one with God. But in fact, you are, in fact, a reflection of God. If these are but words to you, it will only benefit if this becomes a realization, making it real to yourself. Awareness indicates this very action is that action which defeats the efforts of the dark forces. For as long as one's entity on this planet has such a realization, the planet cannot be claimed by the dark forces. The God that is everywhere is the Antichrist, and the awareness indicates that there will be that effort of the dark forces to create entities to believe that they are separate from God, that God is there, and they are here. This awareness indicates the God that is everywhere is the Antichrist, and that God is within is the one true God. I'll repeat that. Awareness indicates there will be that effort on the dark forces, the Antichrist, to cause entities to believe that they are separate from God, that God is there, and they are here. And this awareness indicates the God is elsewhere, is the Antichrist. And God is within, is the one true God. So be prepared for anything. The battle indicates, look at terminology and definitions of words and the essence of whether you believe there are entities or forces of evil, fallen angels, whatever your spirituality belief. There is and have an open mind up and open mind, and this is a spiritual war. For that note, I'll say good day, and to those that want to flag my video, it doesn't really care, because at the end of the day, we're all spiritual beings, and if you're falling for whatever, that's your own personal opinion and choice. Which is key. Yeah. The history is important, as I said. I'm going to stop sharing now. Time for me to go. It is real to educate yourself. The website streaming, educateyourself.org. I know these videos, I want to do them, play it back. I don't give up.